Cool, man. It looks like we are live. So, for everybody who's jumping on here, welcome to the second series of our Predictable Profits Live sessions. And Zach, what do you say, my man? And we got a lot to cover today. We give it a few minutes and let people join in, or do you want to get started?
We can get started. That's fine. I'm just pausing on my notifications for Slack, so you don't hear that in the background. Yeah, let's jump in. What are we talking about today?
All right. So, one of the things that keep coming up over and over again is about sales conversions and how do we improve our conversions. And the very start of that actually comes down to what happens before you actually get on the phone with them. And so today we're talking about lead nurturing, specifically how to turn cold leads into clients. And I bring this up because statistically speaking, a cold lead, a general bucket of cold leads, will convert at about 1%. Then a more specific bucket of cold leads will convert at 10%. As you warm them up, though, they'll convert anywhere between 30 to 70%. And so that's why it's really important to be able to warm up those leads. Yet when we talk about warming, for many people, that seems to be a little bit of a foreign concept. So I'd like to take the people into our preheating strategy and go from there.
Awesome, sounds good. And then to kind of pick up from last week, so we're kind of doing episodes, right, within kind of a broader topic. And so last week we talked about how to fill your sales pipeline in 2022, and then the different problems that we're seeing, right? So just to quickly go over that, we don't have to rehash it. If you want to check that out, you can probably go to our page, Predictable Profits, either Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or wherever. This is being hosted in a number of different places. But buyers have become researchers. Problem two, we rely too much on word of mouth and referral, so there's no scalable process. Problem number three is no systematic follow-up. So we talked about ways to address that. And then this is kind of building off of that last workshop, right? So we're talking about how to turn cold leads into buyers. So with that kind of setting of the table, let's jump into point number one.
Awesome. So I really want to start with the problem specifically with lead generation. And, what we're seeing going on, is that somebody turns around, they're like, all right, I want to generate leads. So what I'm going to do is go to, Zoom Info or any sort of lead aggregation service. They're going to download thousands of leads. They're going to queue them up into an email software program, press send, close their eyes, cross their fingers, and hope they're going to get a whole bunch of people coming back. But what happens is people receive the email. They don't know who this person is. They hit the mark spam, puts them to spam. They don't get any responses. And then they start to wonder, oh, man, is cold email actually working for me? So they go, you know what? I know what the problem is. The problem is I got to use LinkedIn. And so they go, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a LinkedIn bot and I'm going to have the LinkedIn bot do all this sort of stuff and all this outreach. And then ultimately what ends up happening, they get a few FUs back in their inbox and they realize, this is going to hurt my reputation. So I'm not going to do LinkedIn. And then they come to this conclusion that, you know what, I guess outbound doesn't work. And that is the wrong conclusion. It's not that outbound doesn't work. It's that the formula for what they're using for outbound has changed. It used to work many years ago. I mean, you remember back in the day through automation, you would set more appointments by 10 a.m. than most people would set in a week. And it was easy.
Yeah.
But so much of that has changed now. The formula has changed and the recipe has changed. So look, if you're baking a cake and you forget to put the sugar in, the cake is going to taste much different. You can't say, cake doesn't taste good anymore. It's just that you forget all the ingredients. That's where preheating comes into play, and particularly the preheating strategy.
Right. Yeah. So it's not that outbound doesn't work. It's how they're doing outbound doesn't work, or how how they are taking that effort on. It doesn't work. So that's where we need to focus.
Exactly. And more times than not, when we're working with our coaching clients and we're trying to solve the problem with what do we need to do to improve their close rate, we start with what happens even before the email goes out the door, right? So, what we know at the very basic level, of just buying activity, people like to do business with other people they know, they like, and what's the third one, Zach?
Trust.
But if I'm reaching out to you cold, do you know me?
Nope.
Do you like me?
Probably not.
And do you trust me?
Definitely not.
So inherently, then, outbound marketing, by the way that most people do it, is flawed because you're reaching out to somebody that doesn't know you, that doesn't like you, and doesn't trust you. So in 2020, when all heck hit the fan, we work with some of the smartest, brightest people on the planet, and they assume that, or they hope that we're going to have all the answers, and which is kind of a really tall order. But we had to solve this issue specifically for our B2B clients because uh, sales became digital. Everybody was at home. And so the way to do this is we took everything we thought we knew about outbound, put it aside, and started at the very basic fundamental level. We said, so we know that people do business with other people they know, like, and trust. So let's start with the first one. How are we going to get them to know us? And so the laws of effective frequency dictate that in order to create demand, you have to take somebody from um, the first impression, which is who are these people, all the way through 20 brand impressions, which it gets them to the point where they're like, man, I see them everywhere. I want to do business with you. And that's creating demand through the laws of effective frequency. So one of the first ways that we do this is we take our lead list and we upload them to services like AdRoll. LinkedIn is a great source for this. Facebook is a good source for this, assuming that the Facebook admin also happens to be part of your ICP. You could even do this with Twitter. In fact, we have a client that took their lead rate from 0.5 to 5%. And when we said to them, look, when you get somebody on the phone, if you can get them to say the 4 magic words, I see you everywhere, you're going to be that much further along in the sales process.
Mm-hmm.
So on our next coaching call, he says, all right, Charlie, here's the deal. I am retargeting on LinkedIn, AdRoll, Facebook, Google Display Network, YouTube, Taboola, and Twitter. Went all in. But the lifetime value of his client is so high that it made it worth it. By the time he got people on the phone, they're going, oh my gosh, I see you guys everywhere.
So pause there for a second. There's two things.
Yeah.
One, we had a comment from Neil. Neil, yes, this will be recorded. Typically, those are saved to our page. If we can get a separate recording, I can reach out to you. I'll try to connect with you on LinkedIn so we can go from there. But thank you for reaching out. Two, so I was talking with Whitney about this, and she had a good question, and it was like, but why is that important, right? Like the I see you everywhere. And so I'll let you answer that, but let me, one of the things I told her is like, so we're currently doing that Dream 100 partnership type effort, right? And so for those listening, what we're trying to do is acquire more partners, channel partners, people that we can work with. And one of the reasons why doing something like this, right, this type of content is not only for education purposes, but also for them to be like, wow, we see you everywhere. And why that's important to me. I mean, there's a number of reasons why it's important, but one of them is to establish our credibility. Like we're a company that is, if you see us everywhere and you know that we've been around for 10 years or more, and you know that we've been worked with, these big companies, we've done this great work, we're removing the risk in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, I trust them. They're going to be around. They're not going to fall off. They're not a fly by night organization. This is a real company. And I can tell by they're everywhere. They're doing all this content. So that was one of the reasons why I thought it was really important. Let me ask you that, like, why do you think it's important to be everywhere? Like for someone to be like, wow, I see you everywhere.
Well, there are 3 phases in demand generation. There's create, demand, capture demand, and close demand. Most people are only focusing on closing demand and then sometimes capturing demand. But creating demand really does lean back on the laws of effective frequency, right? It is the more brand impressions, the more we start to want it. That's why for political campaigns, you'll see that on lawns they might have like 4 of the same people on the same lawn, and they'll go everywhere. And generally speaking, the person who gets the most votes are the ones that has the most signs all over the place. So there's a concept of knownness, and usually it's money flows where attention goes, right? The more attention you get, the more likely you're going to end up closing the deal. Also, when familiarity helps to breed trust. So the more familiar you are, if I see you everywhere, now they're starting to trust me a little bit. So it is the laws of effective frequency. It is creating demand. And it's also the fact that now they're starting to trust the brand a little bit, but they don't know me personally. So they can't like me yet. And they can't trust me personally because they don't know me on a personal level. So we got to fix that. And then that's when we go to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Now, with LinkedIn Sales Navigator, we'll create a lead list on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And on that lead list, it's everybody that we're targeting. And then in the morning, what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to like people's content that is posted in the last 24 hours. And specifically, if it's not political, if it has nothing to do with religion or race or anything that might be controversial, because we're not looking to polarize people. Our personal beliefs are our personal beliefs, however that is. What we're looking for is content that is more related to the stuff that we do. So we're gonna I've said this before, but I'm not like some of our friends, like our dear friend Shama Hyder, who turns around and she'll write one thing on LinkedIn and all of a sudden she'll get thousands of likes. If I write a post on LinkedIn and I get 12 likes, I'm going over to you, Zach. I'm high-fiving you and I'm like, woohoo, people like me. This is awesome, right? And most people are like that. There are many times when we're liking a post that we're the only ones that like the post. So people by nature are like, who's this person that continues to like my post? And they'll check you out on your LinkedIn profile. So it's important that your profile is all set up. And if you want to know what a profile looks like, a good profile, there's a few of them that are great. Shama Hyder's is a great one. Feel free to check out my LinkedIn profile. And as long as a LinkedIn profile is set up, you're going to find that people are going to go to the profile and you'll start having conversations. But then you're giving people a like, right? So you're giving them a like and then a meaningful comment. Now, Zach, what happens when you're writing a post and somebody comments on your post? What are you more likely to do?
I mean, there's a level of reciprocity, right? Like they're doing something nice for you first. So you're more likely to go look on their page, go look at their content, go do something, or just comment back to them and thank them.
Yeah.
Like you're going to think more favorable of that person, even if you don't know them.
And so what happens, right, is that more likely than not, you reply back. If I leave you a thoughtful comment, you reply back, even if it's a thank you. So we just started a conversation. And so I started the conversation before I asked you of anything. This whole concept of preheating is I'm giving before I'm getting. I'm giving you I'm giving you engagement. I'm giving you comments. We're starting a conversation. You know who I am. You've been to my LinkedIn profile. So then at the time that I turn around and decide, you know what, I'm going to send you a message, whether it's an email or a LinkedIn. At this point, I've been in your inbox and you're going to say, oh, I know this guy. And you are more likely to respond back.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how there becomes a massive difference in the level of conversation. When I get on the phone with somebody after we've preheated them, there's an automatic kinship. There's this idea that, oh yeah, we've already talked before. So the BS detectors start to come down and it's a real easy conversation. I was just on a podcast just a few minutes ago and we were talking about it. And I said, with cold leads, my conversion rate on cold leads is 64%. And the only reason why that is because of the preheating. If I didn't do any of the preheating, my close would probably be closer to about 10 to 15% on cold because
I
they
mean,
are cold.
it's a crapshoot, right? You're just like hoping and praying, and that's no way to operate. But I hope that they've seen enough and they know enough, and that they enjoy us, and that we can put them through this process that we think will convert them. But you're really starting at a disadvantage. Whereas
Exactly.
if you are able to kind of build the relationship beforehand, obviously, I want to pause though. It's kind of funny, given your background, being more of a direct response marketer. This thought of doing different efforts without asking for something, like an ask in that ad, that's gotta feel weird for you, at least initially. Probably felt strange, because that's very different than kind of, I guess, the core ethos of direct response marketing from way back in the day. But that sort of brand style of marketing obviously is not new, and it's something where a lot of people have shifted to over the last few years. But it's funny.
Well, and there's a reason for that. And I resisted this for a long time because I really have been a big fan of direct response for a long, long time. But buying journeys have changed. And I mean, Google and Facebook kind of figured that out when they're trying to tell people now, like, hey, this 28-day window, conversion window that we originally had, like, that isn't as important as it was in the past because buyers are taking longer to make buying decisions. And so it's really, really, really difficult to be able to track those conversions because people are taking longer.
Yeah.
And so when that becomes at play, and Zach, as you know, we have our decisions as a company, we make very fact-based, data-based decisions. So we don't like to just think about reasons and theory and whatnot. We have to have the data to back it up. And one of the things that we've discovered is through a metric known as brand recall, which the way that we calculate it is you go to Google Search Console, you look at how many people look up your brand name, and then you add that on top of the amount of people that do a direct search for your brand. And what you'll find is there's a direct correlation between revenue and brand recall. And so when you see a statistic like that, a direct correlation between brand and or direct recall and revenue, you realize, well, wait a minute here. Yes, direct response, there's a role and a place for that. But the more important metric that we've not looked at is our brand recall. And this is held true for some of our larger clients who are doing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars a year. We pull that up and they literally can overlay their revenue on top of brand recall. And for our smaller clients, it's who don't have any brand whatsoever, we have to make sure we carve a very, very specific tight niche so that their budget can actually infiltrate that niche. So tight, so that within that small niche, people in that niche can come back and say, I see you everywhere.
Sure. Yeah. Makes sense.
You get me started talking about like that stuff, man. I'm like, woo, really heated because it's that important. So I know this. So this is a mini series. I know where we've got a lot of stuff that we're going to cover, and we want to continue to add value. If you like the stuff that Zach and I are sharing, please like, comment. Let us know that this is the type of stuff that's real valuable for you. If you have specific questions that you'd like answered, specific topics, throw that in the comment because we're always trying to figure out different ways that we can help to add value back to you. So please, make sure you throw that in the comment box for us.
Yeah, I
Next,
mean, if there are like specific asks in terms of content, I think that's not uncommon for us to like, hey, my team would really benefit from something like this. Let us know. I mean, we can certainly, if we're not familiar with it, or we don't, if we're not an expert on it, we won't cover it, and we'll push you to somewhere else. But yeah, I mean, that would also be welcome. We're happy to do that as well.
awesome. Next week, I believe what we're going to be doing is there's been a real change in our economic environment. So we're going to bring in our other partner, Stephanie Vaughn. and we're going to be doing a presentation specifically on how to prepare for the changing economic environment. Due to Stephanie's schedule, it's not going to be at the same time. We'll change that up, but we'll make sure we post that on our social pages so that you know when that is, as we're going to be able to do it. But highly recommend you attending that presentation. It could be, quite frankly, one of the most important presentations of the year. So I would highly recommend that. And again, that's going to happen next Thursday. And then Zach will be back with me the following Thursday. And we'll be actually, when I say off to the races, F1 will be coming up soon. So,
wait, that's next week, right? Next Sunday?
my F1 Miami.
Oh, that's right.
So,
That's right. Okay, I thought you were talking about the upcoming one. So I know there isn't a race this Sunday, but I think it's the following Sunday. They're somewhere in Italy.
so it'll be fun. So, all right, guys, it's been a pleasure. Again, please like, comment, and we'll be there to support you as much as possible. Hope you enjoyed today's content. Hope you found value. Please remember the importance of preheating. And preheating not only will help to improve your response rate, but it's also going to improve your conversion rate in a very substantial and meaningful way.
Hey, before you hop off, do we have any resources on that, like breaking down what preheating is? I think we do. So if there's anyone listening and they're like, so what does that mean? Like, how do you guys do it? I think we do have that kind of broken down. So happy to share resources if someone's interested, just reach out.
Awesome. Awesome, guys. All right. Thank you very much. We'll see y'all